everybody, and welcome to my channel, Behind the Vanity. I'm Jessica. Please subscribe to my channel. You can do that by hitting this little icon down here on your right-hand side of the screen, and just hit that. Hit the bell notification as well, and you'll know when I post more videos. So when I kind of started this channel, I was, of course, talking to my friends about it, and I'm friends with people that are aged 20 to 70, all kinds of women, all different walks of life, all different backgrounds from all areas of the country. And they're really excited for me to do this because basically my goal with this channel is just non-fussy makeup. It's just, I think what we see on Instagram, there's so much just kind of crazy stuff that none of us really feel like we really can do in real life. And obviously I know there's talented people that are doing awesome things, but I wanted this channel to just be very real. My photos is really, you know, of course they're touched up and whatnot, but I want them to look like makeup that you can do. You know, I still have yet to get a really good, I can never quite get a picture of my eye makeup without like looking like this. So anyways, but I just really want makeup to be approachable, and I want to be kind of someone that can make people feel comfortable with makeup. And in talking to a lot of my friends, I've kind of found that it can be very uncomfortable, you know, and sometimes we, you know, through different generations, we've learned different things, and things have continued to move on without us moving on. And so we all end up kind of, I think, stuck in whatever generation of putting on makeup that we were kind of learned in. And it's intimidating when there's new stuff and we're back here to feel like, oh, that's not for us, that's not for me, but it's all for everybody, you know. It's just makeup. So my goal with this channel is to just make people feel comfortable and empowered, and just, you know, just a simple approach. And I even say, you know, simple. I'm a performer, and so I wear a lot of heavy stage makeup, and I also did a Get Glam with me as I got ready for work, and of course the makeup is over the top ridiculous. I'll put a link to that down below so you can see that look, because this is a little bit more natural me. This video is going to be kind of terminology that you might hear that you don't know, and every time you hear it you're like, what's that? No one really explains what it is, and you're like, oh my god, what is that? And you know, kind of a little overview of what it is. So I have a list of probably about 15 things that I'm just going to kind of briefly go over each one, just give you a little bit of an idea, and hopefully there's some on the list that you do know, and there might be even some things that you didn't really know you knew how to do them, but you didn't really know there was a name for it, and now you get to match what you're doing with the name. Or just be something completely, totally new, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, now I know. So anyway, so let's get started. First thing is primer. You know, I don't use primer probably as much as I should. I want to get better at it because I saw one of my friends has a YouTube channel, and I was watching her use a primer, and I was like, God, you know, I need to use a primer. But anyway, I digress. But a primer is just basically just something you put on under your foundation that just kind of smooths your pores, especially if you have large pores. Just gives your makeup, on top of clean, moisturized skin, it provides another barrier kind of between the oils and your foundation, and it just helps your foundation last longer and not crease, not crack, and just kind of smooth your skin out so you get a little bit more of a smooth effect, I guess you could say. And typically you put it on after your moisturizer, so it goes on right after your moisturizer, before your foundation. And there's all kinds, every price point has a primer. You can get them at the drugstore, or you can get high-end ones. You just find one that works for you, read reviews, and I don't have one that I can recommend, but that is primer. The next is the idea of skin tone, and whether or not, it doesn't matter how light or dark your skin is, we all fall into one of three categories: neutral, warm, or cool. And generally speaking, the way, you know, so you ask, so what am I? You know, sometimes it's easy to tell, you know, you'll know if you're cool, you'll know if you're warm. If in doubt, you can always go neutral. At least that's what I've been told. That's kind of what I do. Sometimes if you're in a drugstore and you can't really try on a foundation, neutral is the safer bet to go. However, it is fairly easy to know whether you're warm or cool, and that's basically, do you look better in silver or gold jewelry? I'm not asking what you like, I'm asking which one you look better in. So if you look better in gold, you know, if you put gold jewelry on and you look better in that, you're warm toned. And likewise, if you look better in silver jewelry, you're probably cool toned. So that's the best test. I'm warm toned. I look better in gold. So that's how I am. So that's just a good test to know whether you're, and a lot of times, sometimes foundations will just simply have like N2 or W3 or C1, and that's, the letter stands for the cool, neutral, or warm. So sometimes, I think it took me a little while to figure that out. So anyway, so it might take some of you a little bit to figure that out too. You know, we just assume everyone knows these things, and we don't always know these things. So that's what I'm here for. And then there's the idea of like foundation and concealer. There's full coverage, light coverage, and so like full coverage, a full coverage foundation or concealer means it's gonna be thick. It's really gonna cover stuff. So if you really have problem like spots or, you know, marks or anything like that, you'll wanna use something full coverage. And then something a little bit more lighter coverage, you know, is good if you don't want to put, you know, have too thick of a coverage. So every now and again you'll hear the word buildable. And what that means, it means you can put some on and leave it there and it's light, or you can put more and it'll get a little thicker and a little thicker. So buildable coverage means that you can add and make it cover more. So some foundations, people say it's buildable, like if they're talking about a foundation, they'll say it's buildable because sometimes foundations aren't buildable. You know, you'll keep putting them on, and they don't really cover any better. So if a foundation is light but buildable, it just means that you can kind of make it a little bit more coverage by adding some more. So that's good. Then there's this whole idea of makeup setting, and a lot of times people, you know, you can set with powder. You can use there's makeup setting sprays. And I'm old-fashioned, I guess. I tend to use powder a lot, but there are several sprays that you can do that set your makeup. And I've used a couple of them that I've gotten as samples, and I wish I had more of a recommendation of any of that for you, but I don't. But that's what that means, is when you set your makeup setting, you can usually use powders or sprays. Thanks to Kim Kardashian and all these Instagram videos, the idea of baking your face. It doesn't mean go out and lay by the pool with no sunscreen on. It's different than that. But what it means, and apparently it has been in the drag community for years. Shout out to all my drag queens. No wonder their makeup looks amazing. Basically, it's after you put on your, your makeup, your foundation, your concealer, what you do is you take a translucent powder and you apply it really thick, like under your eyes and even here, anywhere you might get creases or lines. So I guess, you could probably put it on your forehead, but a lot of times you'll see it under the eyes. And it's like a thick layer of powder, and you literally put it on with a makeup sponge. I don't usually really do this, but I want to try it now. Now I'm really curious, but I've seen people do it. So anyway, so after you put your foundation and concealer on, you put a thick layer of powder, and literally where you want it to look powdery, and you let it sit for a couple minutes, and then you dust it off. And the idea is that the powder heats up from the warmth of your skin, and it just creates a smooth, flawless look under your eyes, and it helps it to where things won't crease up. And so give it a try. You have nothing to lose. So then there's this idea of contour, blush, and bronzer. I had a friend of mine ask me recently, what is contour? And I thought that blush was contour, and then we didn't even get into the idea of bronzer. So basically, blush has been around for years. People have been doing that for years, and that's basically a little pop of color on your cheek, kind of like the apple of your cheek. Bronzer is kind of giving yourself a little bit of a sun-kissed glow, kind of anywhere the sun, kind of where the sun would hit, kind of here, and and then contouring. I have a video on kind of contouring basics that I will link below if you are interested in just learning contour basics with the different powders and creams and whatnot. with contour, basically what you're doing is creating bone structure. So you're kind of, I got a little bit on here, you darken where you want to not emphasize, and then you highlight where you want to emphasize. So it just kind of creates, you know, cheekbones. You can slim your nose, you can slim your forehead, you can kind of chisel under your chin a little bit. And so that's, you know, and you can do all three, or you can just do any one or two. If you don't contour, you know, a bronzer or blush is fine. You know, there's really no right or wrong way. You just use as much as you want. Like for the stage, I do all three. But like right now, I just have contour and blush. But blush is color, bronzer is like a sun-kissed glow, and then contour is basically creating bone structure. So that is the difference between those three things. Strobing. So this, I've never really done this, I don't guess, but strobing is, from what I understand, it is like the opposite of contour. You're not using two colors and you're not creating depth. You're not like using dark to create depth and a light. You're basically using like a highlight. A lot of times with contour, for example, contour is a very matte, you know, it's a matte brown and it's like a matte, like a light color, like a flesh color. Strobing is using usually like an iridescent or a pearlescent, shimmery, usually a light shade of something, almost like, think like a shimmery eyeshadow, you know, like a light, like a champagne shimmery eyeshadow kind of a color. And basically you just highlight the areas like here and here, and that's it. You don't create the depth with like a dark color, and but it's just like more, it's like a shiny kind of a look. So not really my thing necessarily, but I've seen it done on some women and it's beautiful. I use it very, very little bit in the show. I just do a little bit, but I also contour and all that kind of stuff. From strobing, we go the difference between matte and shimmer. And basically, you'll hear that said with bronzers, you'll hear that said with blush, you'll hear that said with eyeshadow. Matte just means there's no shiny, nothing in it. It's just a flat color, flat brown, flat, you know, a lot of times you'll always hear me talking about how I love, like with bronzer, I like it to be matte. I don't want my bronzer to be shiny. Some people do. Then your eyeshadows come in mattes and they come in shimmers. And so basically it's just the difference between something being shiny and pearly and not. Then there's three different terms when using eyeliner and mascara. One term is called Tightline, and that's basically where you go with an eyeliner really, 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 really tight to your lashes, usually on the top, and it kind of creates a no makeup look, and it just really kind of makes you look like your eyelashes are longer and darker because you're really emphasizing the root of them. Root stamping is when you take your mascara wand and you really kind of tap it and press it at the root and then go out, which is kind of what we've learned. What I remember learning that when I was first putting on makeup, and it just creates like a depth where it's deeper at the base and then, you know, gets thinner as you go out. So that's called root stamping. Again, probably one of those terms, we've been doing it for years, it just now has a name, I guess. And then waterline. I love to do this. I don't have it done today, but it's when you take your eyeliner and you go, the waterline is right, the little area in your eye closest to your eyeball. And it's kind of wet there because your tears in your eyes, but you line your eyes at the waterline. You can do it underneath or just on top. And I love lining my eyes that way because I feel like it makes them pop. Some people think that if you put like black eyeliner in the waterline, it makes your eyes look smaller, but I feel like for me, it makes my eyes look bigger. Sometimes people too, they put white along the bottom of their waterline, and that supposedly makes eyes look bigger too. So experiment. A cut crease. Well, this is something I just learned and I'm still trying to perfect it. But basically it's a lot of, if you go on Instagram, you'll see this like it's all the rage right now. But first you kind of start out by taking a full coverage concealer, and I guess it's best to use something kind of light, and you put it with a brush all over your eyelid, let it dry. Then you really blend like a shade of eyeshadow on your lid. And then what you do is you take a brush again and put the concealer kind of along here, and you make like a really sharp line. And you stop, a lot of people will stop kind of in the middle of their lid. Then you let it dry and you go in there with like a shimmery eyeshadow or something kind of light. They'll put dark out here. And so it just kind of creates like a three-dimensional effect with your eye. I think it's designed mostly for people that have kind of hooded eyes and kind of, you know, eyes, like my eyes are a little bit deep set, so it's, I do have a lot of the dimension in my eye already, but it's gorgeous. It can be done on anybody, and I'm still, that's a new one for me that I'm learning as well. So, but it's really cool. So I'm hoping to master it soon, and maybe I can teach you guys someday. It'll probably be out of style by the time I get to teaching you it. And then this is one you'll hear me say a lot, is fallout. And fallout is when you, especially with your eyeshadow, when you dip the brush in the pan of eyeshadow and there's a lot of dust from the eyeshadow, that's called fallout. It's also called fallout when you put it on your eyelid and it ends up underneath your eye. That's fallout too. So basically, in some eyeshadows have more fallout than others. You'll have some eyeshadows that don't have a lot of fallout and some that have crazy fallout. And so basically that's what that means when you hear fallout. And it's good when an eyeshadow doesn't have a lot of fallout. It's usually not a deal breaker for a lot of people when it does, because you just clean it up. That's why it's best to do your eye makeup first and then put on your base afterwards, because you can clean it up out from under your eye. But it is a good thing if an eyeshadow doesn't have a lot of fallout. It's just one less mess. So, and then HG, when you hear of anyone talk about their HG product, that stands for Holy Grail. My Holy Grail eye cream, my Holy Grail lipstick. And it just means your best, like the best, like, oh, the best. So that's what that means. You'll hear me say that a lot too, and that's all that means. Or like I said, HG, Holy Grail. You'll see it written like in product reviews a lot. Now you know what it means. If someone says this is my HG, you're like, that's their Holy Grail product. So I'm gonna buy it because they love it and I will too. And then last but not least is one of my favorite things, and there's a lot of this on Instagram. Literally people post, there's like hashtags about this because it is so oddly satisfying, because we buy so much makeup and we don't use it a lot of times. So the idea that you hit pan, and what that means is, you know, all of these eyeshadows, blush, bronzers, they you know, they're pressed and they're in these pans. They're in little metal pans. You know, when you finish one, see that one there, you can see a little bit of the silver. I'm hitting pan. That's what that is. And so when you hear people say I hit pan on my eyeshadow palette, usually it's something to be celebrated, because it means that you're using what you bought, you know, and it just so often doesn't happen. So that's what hitting pan means. And for a lot of us, it's a time for celebration. And for other people, it might not be if they hit pan a lot on certain items and they have to just go back out and buy it again. But generally speaking, we're excited to hit pan because, you know, it means that we've utilized what we've bought. So that's one of my all-time favorites. If there are any terms that I have left out that you have heard and don't know what they are, or that you can help me, that you can say, hey, you didn't mention this one and it's this, or do you know what this means? And you can test my knowledge. So like I said, I came up with the best list I could, and I'm sure I forgot something. Put it in the comments below, and like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell notification so you'll know when I post more videos. And I will see you next time. Bye.